Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Alright, without further ado, let us dive straight into the recap of Tsukimichi, Moonlit Fantasy Part 27. Now, for those of you who might have forgotten, in the previous part, Makoto had just finished handling various important matters in Mizuha City. Their journey now continues toward Kanaoi, a place where Iroha's situation becomes even more complicated, and at the same time, the gateway to the Great Labyrinth of Lorel. Now, let us continue to Part 27. The story begins when Makoto and his group finally arrive at the inn that Shii and Hokuto had selected. Iroha immediately falls silent in awe, because this place is clearly on a completely different level compared to the modest inn they stayed at in Mizuha. Even though Makoto had already guessed that Baron, Hokuto, and Shii were the ones who booked this place, he still did not expect them to choose an inn this luxurious. The building itself gives off the impression that they have just stepped into a legendary bathhouse for the gods from a classic movie. The entire structure is made of high-quality wood, radiating a strong sense of nostalgia combined with modern grandeur born from artistic renovation. Tomoe looks extremely satisfied, impressed by Shii's refined taste that turns out to be far beyond expectations, while Mio feels that this place is far more suitable for rest compared to the simple inn they used before. Not long after that, Iroha begins to explain that this inn is not just any ordinary place. It is the #1 inn in the entire city of Kanaoi. Even she herself has never stayed here before. She enthusiastically talks about how the service at this inn is famous for spoiling its guests, to the point that whatever a guest desires, the inn will do its best to fulfill it. That explanation leaves Makoto even more shocked. At first, he only wanted a simple place to stay, but instead, he ends up being thrown into a premium class inn. When he hears about the level of luxury and the cost involved, Makoto immediately makes an extreme decision. He does not want to see the bill at all, because he is afraid he might get a stroke from the shock. He chooses to leave all payment matters to someone else. Then, when Iroha mentions the legendary food served at the inn, dishes so delicious that customers become addicted after just one bite, Mio's eyes instantly light up with excitement. Soon after, Baron, Shii, and Hokuto arrive to welcome Makoto. The three of them greet him respectfully before guiding the group into the main hotel area. The moment Makoto steps through the grand entrance, the sight before him completely freezes him in place. On both sides of the doorway, rows of hotel staff stand neatly while bowing their heads, welcoming him as if he were a high-ranking noble. Such an extravagant reception makes Makoto pause for a moment out of sheer awkwardness, but he eventually forces himself to walk forward calmly. Along the corridor, the scene is no less astonishing. Lines of attendants once again stand on both sides, bowing respectfully every time Makoto passes by, something he has only ever seen on television until now. Before he can even fully process what is happening, a staff member explains that Makoto's current stay is scheduled for 10 days. Tomoe then suggests extending the duration, considering that Iroha's issues are not yet resolved, and they might need more time in Canawi. Upon hearing that, Makoto immediately decides to extend their stay to a full month. When the staff member is about to explain the price, Makoto stops them right away. He firmly states that all payment matters are to be handled by Tomoe alone. The issue of cost does not need to reach his ears at all. After that, Tomoe and the hotel staff member talk briefly about the hotel services. In the middle of the conversation, Tomoe mentions that she wants to try the fried rice that is rumored to be the most delicious dish at the inn. The staff member quickly nods and promises that it will be prepared immediately. Makoto and his group continue by walking around the hotel, while Tomoe stays behind to handle all administrative matters. When they arrive at the room that has been prepared for them, the level of luxury is far beyond their expectations. The room is extremely spacious, filled with expensive furniture, and even attended by 5 dedicated personal servants. Iroha begins to tremble, because she is not used to seeing facilities of this caliber. Her legs nearly fail to support her body when she realizes how magnificent the place where they will be staying truly is. Alright, the story then moves back several days, shifting to Iroha's point of view. Osakabe Iroha, that is the name she bears as a member of the most prestigious military family in Kanaoi, the largest city in the entire Laurel Union. However, that title is merely an outward appearance. In reality, she is only a descendant of a branch family with no real authority. From the moment she was born, her path was already decided, not to lead, but to be used as a political tool. She was destined to be involved in a political marriage, and her engagement to Izumo was part of that grand plan. Even though their relationship was maintained from a distance through letters, the two of them continued to exchange news regularly. Izumo's life at the university was initially ordinary, but everything changed when he obtained a new instructor. From that point on, Izumo became far busier and no longer had time to meet Iroha in person. Even news about the festival incident was conveyed only through letters. Amid her growing longing, Iroha also continues to worry about the condition of her extended family. As if responding to that unease, the situation in Canawi suddenly becomes tense. The Great Labyrinth grows increasingly unstable. Monsters begin to overflow and attack nearby cities. While Lorel faces a very real external threat, chaos instead erupts within the elite ranks of the Osakabe family. The head of the main family falls ill, creating a power vacuum that causes various factions to compete fiercely without any concern for the people. Instead of uniting to confront the monsters that are clearly threatening the nation, they focus on undermining one another in their struggle for leadership. Ridiculous rumors even begin to spread, claiming that a radical faction is planning to harm Iroha, as if killing a daughter from a branch family would somehow grant them political advantage. That absurdity reaches its peak during an emergency military meeting. No strategies for dealing with the monsters are discussed at all. Instead, the elites agree to raise taxes on the citizens under the excuse of emergency funding. In Iroha's eyes, this is the height of unforgivable stupidity. All of that pressure eventually drives Iroha to make a decision. She leaves the Osakabe family and chooses to travel to a nearby village to pursue her own objective. For that journey, she hires a group of adventurers. However, her plan collapses when those very adventurers betray her. Without any warning, they turn their swords toward her. Iroha cannot understand why the people she paid to protect her suddenly become a threat. The adventurers bluntly explain that they intend to kidnap her. According to them, a young girl would not be able to pay such high fees unless she came from a wealthy family. They are convinced that Iroha is someone who would yield a large ransom. Cornered, Iroha still demands her sword back, even stating that if killing herself is the fastest way to avoid further trouble, she will do it herself. However, before the situation turns fatal, two other adventurers appear and save her, Haku and Jinibia. After the swindlers are dealt with, Iroha expresses her gratitude and explains that she was betrayed by the group she hired. She also admits that she only wanted to return home, but the journey ended up becoming a complete disaster. Haku listens carefully, but she remains doubtful. In her view, the story does not sound entirely convincing. She even suspects that the name Iroha is not Osaka Iroha, as the girl claims. Jinibia then adds that based on the girl's behavior and level of knowledge, there is a strong possibility that she actually comes from the Osakabe family. In other words, the girl's true name is Osakabe Iroha. After learning Iroha's true identity, Jinibia begins to ask about the real reason why Iroha ran away from home. Iroha explains that her departure was not merely a reckless act. It was an attempt to observe the neighboring villages firsthand. After gathering data and understanding the conditions of the people directly, she planned to return and tell her parents that the family's decisions so far were not appropriate. In short, after hearing her explanation, Jinibia and Haku decide to escort Iroha to Mizuha City. Along the way, the two of them advise her to be more cautious in the future. The world is filled with both good people and bad people, and distinguishing between the two is not easy, especially for someone as inexperienced as her. After arriving in Mizuha, Jinibia and Haku promise that they will help find a trustworthy adventurer group for Iroha to hire. Iroha expresses her gratitude for all the help they have given her. Before leaving, the two entrust Iroha to one of the guild staff members whom they trust. That guild staff member then offers something unexpected, an opportunity for Iroha to become an adventurer herself. She accepts the offer, and the results of her test are quite surprising. Despite her young age, she is already at level 8 and possesses the title Holder of Good Fortune. With that support, Iroha begins to rebuild her resolve. She wants to change the way her parents think and prove that she is capable of making her own decisions. However, that plan once again falls apart when her own subordinates begin to chase her and attempt to capture her. She nearly gets caught when suddenly a woman appears, moving at an astonishing speed. In an instant, Iroha's subordinates fall one by one without even being able to resist. That person is Tomoe. From that moment on, admiration begins to grow within Iroha. She feels as if she has just been saved by a legendary swordswoman. Tomoe then takes her to Makoto's inn. Iroha believes that all of these fortunate encounters happen thanks to the effect of her title. She feels relieved to finally be surrounded by good people. However, deep in her heart, she remains confused. She does not understand why someone as strong as Tomoe and Mio would show such deep respect toward Makoto. From the outside, Makoto looks like an ordinary man without any outstanding traits. Iroha therefore concludes that the only logical explanation is wealth. In her view, Makoto must be extremely rich. After that meeting, Iroha goes to the guild with the intention of canceling the adventurer contract she previously made. However, one question continues to bother her. Why did her subordinates suddenly stop chasing her? That silence feels unnatural. Makoto then explains that those subordinates will no longer pursue her. He shows her a letter from Sairitsu as proof. Iroha is shocked. She only then realizes that Makoto is actually a very famous and influential figure. Makoto also tells her that he is willing to help Iroha with her plan to observe the neighboring villages. On the next journey, as they ride in a horse-drawn carriage, Mio sits in the driver's seat while Iroha sits beside her. In that calm atmosphere, Mio begins to talk about Makoto. She notices that Iroha views Makoto as nothing more than a wealthy man. But Mio explains that Makoto far exceeds that assumption. His influence is immense, especially in Tsuge and Hrothgard. In fact, Makoto has now become an instructor at the most famous magic academy. Not long after that, Iroha notices a cliff ahead of them and warns Mio to stop the carriage. However, before any panic can arise, she sees Makoto nod calmly, as if signaling that everything is safe. And indeed, within seconds, the two separated sides of the cliff suddenly connect, as though a new bridge has appeared by magic. Mio continues her story, explaining that Makoto also played a major role in the reconstruction of Hrothgard city after the festival incident. However, their journey is interrupted when the horse pulling the carriage suddenly becomes restless. The animal shows clear signs of fear. A strong undead presence can be sensed from the surrounding area. Makoto prepares to step in, but Mio stops him. She firmly states that this time, she will handle the situation herself. With a single, effortless motion from Mio, a dark pillar appears, spinning violently as it pierces the sky. Everything that blocks their path vanishes instantly, including the undead that had disturbed their journey. Iroha can only remain silent, completely unable to speak after witnessing such overwhelming power. Their journey continues, and Iroha keeps carefully observing the conditions of the villages around Kanaoi. After gathering a significant amount of data, she becomes increasingly convinced that her father's decision to raise taxes is a serious mistake. Based on what she sees, increasing taxes will only worsen the people's situation and trigger economic consequences that will be extremely difficult to repair. Yet amid her worries, there is one thing that brings her relief. Many village problems are resolved unintentionally whenever Makoto passes through. Each time Makoto enters an area, the strange phenomena troubling that village suddenly subside. Iroha grows even more impressed and finally acknowledges that Makoto truly deserves to be called a wise. After continuously witnessing strange events throughout the journey, Iroha finally gathers the courage to ask whether Makoto is capable of communicating with animals, demi-humans, spirits, and other species. Makoto confirms this, leaving Iroha utterly stunned. She has never known of a wise who can communicate with so many different beings. Makoto then explains that this ability is a major secret of the Kuzunoha company, and Iroha is asked to keep it confidential. Iroha's shock only deepens when she learns that Makoto is actually Izumo's instructor. Beyond all of that, however, Iroha begins to realize something far greater. This meeting cannot simply be a coincidence. Makoto, a wealthy merchant, Izumo's teacher, and someone possessing power on a divine level, appears in Canawi precisely when political tensions are reaching their peak and the Great Labyrinth is becoming unstable. It is impossible for all of this to have no deeper meaning. Iroha feels as though she is being pulled by fate itself. She becomes certain that something enormous is moving toward Kanaoi, and the Kuzunoha company will stand right at the center of that coming storm. So that is the recap of part 27 from Tsukimichi, Moonlit Fantasy.